He returned after 30 years, but no one remembered his name. No old teachers, no old friends. Only memories, still imprinted in every step. A man who was once despised, now silently gives a gift that changes a generation. A story of forgiveness, kindness, and how a man who doesn't need to be remembered, but will forever be engraved in the hearts of others. Autumn morning. The weather is cold. James Miller stands in front of the rusted iron gate of the high school he attended more than 30 years ago. The sign is faded. Some letters are peeling, but the name, Riverdale High School, still makes his heart tremble. No one pays attention to the man in a light gray shirt, wearing old canvas shoes and holding a worn leather bag. No one knows that he is one of the richest people in America. James reaches out to touch the gate. A memory rushes back like a cold wind. Back then, the young James often stood here silently, waiting for the bell to ring before daring to enter. He was afraid to leave early, afraid of the mocking eyes, the snickers when he saw the broken heels of his shoes and the patched backpack. School to others is a place of knowledge. To him, it is a battlefield. Inside is Mr. Collins, the former literature teacher, whom James once loved very much. There is a group of friends who often call him Poor James, often snatching lunch boxes and pouring milk on the table he, James, never told anyone, not even his mother. Now, he returned, not to seek justice, not to boast about his success, but simply to look back at his old self and do something for the children who were like him. A security guard walked up, his figure tired and his eyes suspicious. "Who are you looking for?" "The school won't let you in without an appointment." James smiled, his voice soft. "I used to study here. I just wanted to come in for a visit." The guard hesitated, then called the office. A few minutes later, he was let in. James walked across the school grounds. Every step, every broken brick, everything was still there. The only difference was no one recognized him. The school office was still the small room next to the stairs. James gently knocked on the door. Inside, a middle-aged man with gray hair raised his head. It was Mr. Collins, still the same face, but now cold, distant. "Yes, what do you need?" the teacher asked. James walked in, smiling gently. "Mr. Collins, I'm James, your old student, Class 12A, 1994. Mr. Collins hesitated, blinked a few times, then shook his head. "Sorry, I don't remember clearly. Taught hundreds of students each year." James nodded slightly. He didn't blame. The sadness flashed in his eyes, then disappeared. "Mr. Collins asked a few more questions, then politely invited him to the hallway if he wanted to visit on his own. James bowed his head in thanks, then quietly walked out. No one remembered his name. No one asked anything more. He walked across the gymnasium. The silhouettes of children appeared, uniforms, calls to each other. Laughter. Suddenly a familiar voice rang out behind him. "Hey, look, isn't that the dark?" James from back then. James turned back. 3 men stood by the shiny SUV, ironed shirts, shiny leather shoes. One man curled his lips. "What are you doing here?" Same sarcastic tone as before. His name was Kyle, the basketball captain back then. Next to him were Derek and Ron, Kyle's best friends back then. They used to stuff James's bag with papers and pour water in it. James just smiled. "I came to visit." "Long time." "No, see." Kyle nudged Derek's shoulder. "Maybe you're going back to apply for a security job." "Right?" The 3 of them burst out laughing. James only said one sentence. maybe. Then he walked away, leaving behind him snickers. No one knew who he was. No one knew. In a few days, the school library would be opened with a $5 million donation named after his late mother, Elizabeth Miller, the woman who worked hard to sew to buy her son a new notebook at the beginning of the school year. James walked down the second-floor hallway. Each step echoed the sound of old heels hitting the faded tiles. He stopped in front of a wooden door with faded paint. The words, Class 12A, Class of 1994, written in chalk, were still faintly visible on the old nameplate. For some reason, his heart slowed. His hands trembled slightly as he pushed the door open. The classroom was empty. No students, no teachers, only dust and dim light through the window cracks. James walked slowly between the rows of desks. The wooden desks were carved with letters, names, and pen strokes. This was Mary's desk, the girl who had smiled at James once. This was Kyle's corner, where he had laughed loudly after every prank. And there, the desk at the back of the classroom, next to the window. James's desk back then. James sat down, leaning back into his chair, and silent. He remembered the last essay he had written. The topic, You See What Is in My Future. James wrote that he wanted to be someone who helps poor students have the right to dream, but that essay was never returned. I wonder if the teacher graded it or threw it in the trash. He opened his bag, takes out a printout. It was a scan from an archive that his personal assistant had found through the county library. Old essay, handwritten. The paper was stained. The ending was still the same. I believe that those who have been forgotten will be the first to remember others. James read it again, saying nothing. He folded the paper, put it back in his pocket. His eyes weren't sad, just softened, like autumn rain falling on an old tin roof. The bell rang in the hallway. Students ran home. A few passed by the classroom door. No one noticed the man sitting alone, but a boy stopped. That boy had messy hair, wearing glasses, holding a notebook with a torn spine with a rubber band. James looked at him, as if he saw himself in the past. "What class are you in?" James asked softly. "Yes, Class 9C. James smiled. "What do you like to study most?" The boy hesitated. "Literature, but not many people like it in class. The teacher said there are few opportunities." James chuckled. "Just write. It's okay if no one reads it. Write to remember who you are, so that later you won't forget the good things." The boy nodded, not understanding everything but keeping a respectful expression. James put his hand on his shoulder, lightly, then stood up. "Go to class. Today will be a good day." The boy ran away. James watched. The sun slanted through the window, shining on his face. For a moment, the man looked like a teacher or a writer. Forgot his name that had been laughed at. That afternoon, the school held a small reunion for the 1994 alumni. Celebrating 30 years of graduation, James was invited, not by the official list, but by a young administrative staff, accidentally saw his name on the old list. She thought it would be nice if someone who was not remembered returned. The meeting room was on the third floor. Plastic chairs were arranged in a circle. Cake, water, and a few wilted vases. About 20 people attended, mostly faces that had passed through James's life. Once friends, or laughter behind his back. James walked in. No one turned around. No one recognized him. Only Kyle. Ron and Derek were standing in the middle of the room. Still the same old trio, but with bigger bellies. The laughter was louder, and so was my ego. "Hey, it's James. I thought he was going to work as a construction worker on the highway. Who would have thought he'd come back for a class reunion?" Kyle patted James on the shoulder like a friend close, but his eyes couldn't hide the mockery. James just nodded. "It's been a long time. Everyone looks healthy." Ron chimed in. "Not only healthy, we're also successful. Kyle is the deputy director of a bank branch. I opened a car showroom. Derek just bought a Riverview apartment." Laughter broke out. Everyone told their stories about the new house, about the trip to Bali, about the child studying at an international school. James sat still, drank a sip of cold tea. His eyes looked out the window where the students were playing soccer in the yard. A child fell. His friend helped him up. James smiled slightly. Inside, a girl dressed simply walked over, carrying an old photo album. Her name was May. She used to sit at the table 2 rows to the left. She was the only person who ever helped James when he spilled milk on his shirt. "Are you James Miller?" May asked. James nodded. She smiled gentle. "I remember you. You used to write a very good poem for the Wall newspaper." The whole class laughed, but I thought it was really good. James fell silent. Not because of the compliment, but because someone remembered. Even if it was just a small thing, even if it was an old poem. Kyle interrupted. "Poetry can't feed anyone. Now you have to know how to invest, how to sell real estate, how to create cash flow. Do you know cash flow?" James looked up, eyes straight. "I know, it's just, I choose to let it flow to the right place." The whole room was silent for a few seconds. Then Kyle burst out laughing. "You talk like a philosopher. Or have you written an inspirational book?" James did not answer. May was silent. The party continued, with stories of those who chose to show off first. No one knew. The man in gray sitting in the corner of the room. He was the one who funded the entire library repair, paid the salary of the new literature teacher, and established a scholarship fund for children in the same situation as James in the past. The meeting ended when it was getting dark. James was about to leave quietly. Then a voice rang out behind him. "Uncle James Miller." James turned around. A woman in her 40s walked over simple clothes, intelligent eyes. "I am Lana Trin, the new principal since the beginning of the year." James nodded slightly. "Nice to meet you." Miss Lana smiled. "I know you." "Your name is on the fund records. Every page of the document has your signature. I didn't think you would leave without telling anyone." James replied softly. "I just wanted to look back." Quietly, Miss Lana nodded, her eyes warm. "Tomorrow morning, we will announce the Elizabeth Miller Fund, your mother's name. I hope you can attend, because for the poor students here, that is a real turning point." James pondered for a few seconds, then said, "Okay, I will stay another day." The next morning, Riverdale High School was bustling as if it had never been degraded. The yard was swept clean. The rows of plastic chairs were neatly arranged outside the small temporary stage in the middle of the schoolyard. A white-painted wooden board appeared with red letters. "Groundbreaking ceremony of the Elizabeth Miller Library from a child of this school." No one knew who it was. Both teachers and students were curious. Kyle and his old friends also came, standing in the front row, still shouting loudly. Probably someone rich and educated here in the past, but not necessarily as rich as us. James sat in the back row. No one noticed gray shirt. Dark khaki pants like a normal parent. Ms. Lana stepped onto the stage. Brief introduction. Today, we are honored to receive a sponsorship from a former student of the school. He has been quietly helping the school establish a scholarship fund, renovate the library, and support teachers for the next 3 years, all in the name of his mother, Elizabeth Miller. Everyone stirred. Kyle turned to Derek. Miller sounds familiar. But I can't remember who Ms. Lana continued. And now, I'd like to invite him to speak, a former Class 12A, class of 1994. The atmosphere froze. Everyone turned. James stood up. His hands were shaking, but his eyes were steady. He walked slowly onto the stage. Still himself. No vest, no business card, no halo. When he said the first sentence, "I'm James Miller, former Class 12A," and the one who was once called Poor James, the whole school was silent. Kyle was stunned. Ron opened his mouth. Derek frowned in disbelief. James continued, "I'm not mad at anyone. Didn't come to tell back to the old stories. I came because I believed the children who had been forgotten deserve a place to dream big, and someone to believe in." There was no applause, just eyes full of silence and slightly bowed. James looked around. Sunlight shone on his head, revealing the silver hair, and eyes without hatred, only love and forgiveness. He stepped down. Without another word, the crowd made way. Someone whispered, "He is the president of Miller, the man behind our Victory Corporation." But James just quietly left. And before he left, he looked back at the schoolyard one last time. The children were still playing soccer. A young teacher was grading papers, and behind the yard a small board was erected, engraved with the words, "Elizabeth Miller Library, for dreams that never had a chance to be written." James left the stage, not in a hurry, not bowing, not smiling. The crowd was silent. No one applauded, but each person quietly nodded. The principal stood still. Her eyes lingered on James, who had just walked away. She didn't speak, just gently placed a hand on her chest, where her heart, as if reminded of something important. At the back of the field, Kyle bowed his head for the first time. Didn't say anything. He sat down, leaned back in his chair, eyes on the sign. Elizabeth Miller Library. Mouths moving. No words. Ron and Derek looked at each other, still not understanding. Only saw something in Kyle's eyes, like shame and regret. A few of the older students whispered, "Who is he?" The chairman. "He looks more like a retired teacher." A little girl raised her hand. "Teacher, is that the guy who built our library?" The young teacher nodded. "That's right. And he used to study at that table." The whole class turned, looking at the old wooden table under the tree. The corner of the yard was dimly lit. A seat, once considered lowly, now remembered as the beginning of something good. James did not turn back, just walked through the old iron gate like a person passing through a memory and closed it, without resentment, without needing credit, just to be quiet and at ease. Late that afternoon, James walked around town. His old canvas shoes made light marks on the worn brick path by the lake behind the school. The wind gently shook the lake, as if stirring a part of his memory, although he was used to living in glass buildings, bulletproof cars, million-dollar conference rooms. But today, just the old stone bench. It was enough. James sat down, holding a paper cup of coffee bought from a street cart. Simple, strong, really. Footsteps approached. Slowly, hesitantly, then stopped behind him for a few seconds. James didn't turn around, just said, "Sit." Kyle sat down. Said nothing for a long time. Just breathed and looked down at the ground. James took a sip of coffee. The wind carried the scent of weeds and dry leaves. Then he said, "What do you want to ask?" Kyle slowly. "I don't know what to say. Earlier, at the ceremony, I was shocked. James didn't look. Because I'm not what you think. Kyle shook his head, because I didn't think someone who was bullied by us would come back to help this school and stand there so calmly. I felt ashamed. But I'm not good at saying sorry. James nodded slightly. I know. Not everyone needs to say it out loud. Both were silent. Only the sound of children playing in the distance could be heard. The sound of bicycle bells of students just finishing class. Kyle suddenly spoke. Back then, my mother was very poor, but I never told. I just tried to act rich, fierce, outstanding, so people wouldn't see the weakness behind James didn't answer. But he listened, and Kyle felt it. Thank you for coming back, and thank you for not turning into someone like me. James turned, warm eyes. I used to be very angry with you. But then I understood. People who hurt others are often the ones who hurt before. Kyle bowed his head. The wind blew gently through his hair. He felt a little lighter. James stood up, put the empty coffee cup in the nearby trash can. I'm leaving tomorrow, but you're still here. If you're really ashamed, start helping others, quietly. Don't need anyone to know. That's the best way to make peace with the past. Kyle nodded. No more words, but James knew. The apology had been said in the most sincere way. Her name is Han, the new literature teacher at Riverdale School. Just graduated 2 years ago, job here because of a shortage of people, and because she doesn't ask for much. Her homeroom class is 9C. More than half of the students are from disadvantaged backgrounds. Some have mothers who left. Some have fathers who had accidents. Some fall asleep because they work late at night. Ms. Han understands everything. No scolding, no criticism, just a gentle voice. And always keeps a small box of cookies and a few spare notebooks in her bag for the children who come to class hungry and with empty bags one day. A student asked her, "Teacher, are poor people never good?" Ms. Han paused for a few seconds, then replied, "No. It's just that poor people have to be twice as good to be seen as normal. But if you keep trying, one day you won't just be seen. You'll be remembered." That sentence James stood in the hallway and heard it. He didn't say anything, just smiled and left. That night, Principal Lana received an email. Just one line. Increase monthly allowance for Teacher Han, Class 9C. No need to list the name of the supporter. Below the email, it was a transfer of money enough for a year. The next morning, Ms. Han received a notice from the office. She was stunned, not understanding, only knowing, eyes stinging, and in her heart, something was comforted. She returned to class, starting the lesson with a poem. Not from a book, but a poem printed from an old wall newspaper. She accidentally found in the library. People forget my nameless self. But I still have eyes. I still have a pen. And one day, I will rewrite myself. The students fell silent, not understanding everything, but seeing in her eyes there was something very real, very close, very like a mother, but also very similar to a certain man who walked through the classroom hallway yesterday with gentle eyes and silently. People call him Uncle Min, the gatekeeper of Riverdale School. For over 20 years, he doesn't talk much. He just nods and opens the gate on time. The students like him, because he often gives candy to those who lose their sandals or helps mend broken backpack straps with a fishing line he hides in his pocket. Uncle Min lives alone, in a small room next to the garage. No wife, no children. Only an old tin box containing photos and a few student report cards that he used to quietly keep. James happened to stop by Uncle Min, was busy cleaning up trash under the sun. He stopped. "How long have you been working here?" Uncle Min looked at James. Didn't recognize but nodded. It's been a long time, since the time when James was poor and often teased by students. I remember you, kind, quiet, but once gave a friend a portion of lunch even though he used to tease you. James paused. Do you remember? Uncle smiled toothlessly. Well, poor people are often forgotten, but they leave a mark in the hearts of others. I don't study much, but I know who is good. James didn't say anything, just pulled out an envelope. Inside was a small card and a banknote. Uncle Min held, reading slowly, eyes wide open. What is this? I can't accept. James put his hand on his shoulder. It's for you to fix the room, buy medicine, and save for your old age. You don't need to know who I am. Just know. There was a student who was grateful to you. Uncle Min stood still. His hand clenched the envelope. Mouth moved, but said nothing. That afternoon, the small room next to the garage suddenly sounded the sound of a new fan, the smell of essential oil, and Uncle Min's voice mumbled, James. Grown up, but still as good as ever, still in the tin box. Among the yellowed report cards is an old photo of a boy wearing a short-sleeved shirt, smiling awkwardly in front of the school gate. Uncle turned to the back. The words were blurred, but still readable. Thank you for never asking me for money. That night, James stayed in a small hotel near the school. The room was simple, not fancy. There was only one window looking out at the football field lights in the distance. He was reading a book. Then the phone rang. An unknown number. James answered. Hello, sorry, is this Mr. James Miller? I hear. On the other end of the line is a woman's voice, shaky, simple. I am Mai's mother, a student in Class 9C. My child has just been notified of a 3-year full scholarship. I don't know what to say, but I thank you with all my heart, as a mother who once thought she would have to let her child drop out of school because she had no money. James was silent for a few seconds. Then he replied softly, Thank you for not giving up. Thank you for raising a child who knows how to make an effort. The mother burst into tears. I just wanted my child to study, and now... It's true. James looked out the window. The schoolyard lights were still on. He didn't say anything more, just held the phone close to his ear. He listened to the soft cry of a mother, because for the first time he believed that his child had a future. Early the next morning, Riverdale School had not opened its gates. The sky was still misty. Only Uncle Min woke up early to sweep the leaves, and a figure stood silently in front of the newly framed library. James placed a small package in front of the door. Inside was a stack of paper, an old fountain pen, and a handwritten note. For the library. To the first child to write down the dream he was afraid to say out loud. No signature, no source, just leave it there. James turns away. No greetings, no getting in the car with a driver waiting. Just walks along the dirt road to the bus stop, like a normal visitor. Leaving the old town. Uncle Min sees intending to call after, but then just stands still, watching that gray-shirted figure disappear into the morning mist in the schoolyard. A few students arrive early. One holds a bag, one rides a bike. A little girl points to the library sign. Mom said this library has the same name as the grandmother of a very good man. The kid next to her asks, is he a famous person? Don't know, but definitely someone who will be remembered, even though he doesn't need anyone to remember. A gentle breeze above the sign. The wood is engraved with the words Elizabeth Miller Library, still wet with paint. The smell of new wood blends with the smell of old earth, like a gentle reminder that there are people who pass by. No need for applause, just to leave a seat for someone else's dream to begin.